Good morning. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the conference, and thank you for joining me for my talk. It's really early in the morning, so really thank you a lot. Anyone had their morning coffee yet? You happy? Yeah, some of you might be coffee person, tea person, or water. I don't have to eat breakfast, but I have to have coffee. Otherwise, I just don't wake up. So yeah, today we will talk about AI. Maybe the word is being used a lot, but we will talk about a very specific product in the AI industry, and a bit of myself. My name is Teresa. I came from London, and this is my first time visiting the city, and it's really, really beautiful. I hope you also enjoying. If you're not coming from here locally, also enjoying the city as well, and also, of course, the conference. I work for JP Morgan as a software engineer, and outside of my day-to-day work, I also do quite a lot of talks and present things I'm interested in, things I've been learning, and my own experience in conferences, in meetups, and or maybe in one-to-one mentoring as well. Then I've been given offer this to join the community of Google Developer Expert. I'm a part of the community. It's a great little small group locally in each city. I think if you have one in your city, I would highly recommend to be part of it. It's a very lovely community. So that's about me. I like to understand you as well. As usual, I do this mostly in my conference to understand my audience, but I can ask you to introduce yourself. That's because we have only 40 minutes, 37 now. So let me know, how many of you here coming from the background of front-end development? Yay, same as me. AI industry, data, nice. And I assume you come from other people, the rest, if you hasn't raised up your hand, maybe backend, cloud, or let's say IT in general. So that's good, because I'm doing the right slides, because I'll present in the first part a bit introduction of AI. If you are not coming from the AI background, same as me, because I work mostly in front-end, but in the infrastructure dev experience area. Then I move on to give you a bit of walkthrough of Gemma. We will see how we build it and how we can use it in front-end project, just to share some ideas and happy to discuss. So the first few slides, if you're coming from AI background, this will be quite introductory, but let's see, right? AI and machine learning, they are different, and I'm sure you probably are aware of those terminology already. Machine learning is a subset of AI. They're not the same. Machine learning is actually enables machine to learn and to make decisions based on data. And AI is actually a very wide and large concept, but as of today, when we say AI, we actually mean machine learning mostly, especially when we talk about large language model. That means what is part of AI, but it's not machine learning, right? Here are a few points. When we talk about knowledge reasoning and natural language processing, and computer vision, and robotics, right? Some of those ideas, they are definitely AI, but they don't have to all involve with machine learning. And a bit more, if we want to, for example, if AI is a cake, right, a layering cake, and we slice it down, this will be how it looks like from the different angle. So let's say AI is the concept that has everything. But when we talk about concept of AI to people we don't have to use the word of AI, but we can say we're talking about machine learning. I'm actually referring with data here, or actually deep learning, or GPT. Again, GPT is quite overly used because when I talk to my friend who doesn't come from the IT background, saying I'm learning some concept in AI, in machine learning at the moment, I always, if people doesn't come from the background of IT, I always get not always, sometimes I get the response of, yeah, I know about machine learning and AI, I heard of it. I'm actually trying to use ChatGPT. So now you get the idea. Right. We would talk a bit more about deep learning and GPT in the following slides. So as you can see, right, machine learning, it's actually made of or formed of deep learning, Gemini, and large language model. That's something we will actually discuss a bit more. And if you are front-end engineer and you are thinking of maybe some like to explore some of the new roles or test out some job combining AI technology, it's definitely possible as for today. And we will talk a bit more of how we can use Gemma in your project. So you can also tell or say like, you know, I'm a front-end engineer, but I also understand or I use AI a lot. And there are different job roles. You don't have to be AI researchers as today to be an AI expert. Let's begin with actually the one in the yellow part, AI researchers. This person is expert, right, in this area, in this field for sure. And most likely he or her will have a PhD degree to understand the concept, to build the library, do researches, to improve and explore new ideas and approaches to make the AI concept, right, the algorithm, even better. So this is probably what we think is AI expert, right? That was like, I think that was the concept 2-3 years ago, before large language model and the product of large language model becomes so popular as today. But apart from that, we also have this group of lovely people. They are data scientists and data engineer, and depends on your project. Some companies, they don't specify those kind of job roles very clear. One person can do two things, right? So data engineering is the one responsible to collect data and clean them up, storing them, and monitor those data. But this person can also be the one to train the model, because when we have this raw data, even though we cleaned it, but when we actually transform it, there are still quite a lot of things that we need to think about, especially when we talk about biases and want to actually remove biases, right? When the policies applies, feature engineering comes in play as a very important role, because this person have to understand if I, for example, if I want to build a model that I want to give recommendation for my customer of what product they want to buy, and I have this customer data in my database with their name, email address, their home address, their age, gender, their education background. When I want to build this model to recommend some a price, right, a product to them from my company, what kind of information do I need from this customer? That's part of the job for the feature engineering that they need to decide. Is the name important to build this model? If it's not, I need to not argue, but I need to put on paper to be very specifically saying why I think name and email address is not important. So I'm not going to include this data when I train my model. So this is part of data, but as a front-end engineer, and if I want to explore the world of AI and also use them in my product, I don't have data background. What can I do, right? I can be AI engineer, machine learning engineer. I can be the one who actually use some of these products, right, they made. but consume them as a service. I can also deploy the model because there are so many platforms today that I can use, maintain it, and I can be the one creating the APIs as well. And this is why we will talk about how to use this platform through large language model or small language model. Right. Yeah, this is like basically how you can, where you can use machine learning based on hardwares, right? There's CPU, GPU, or even TPU, or even on edge. And very interestingly, you can also train your model on a mobile and Raspberry API. I haven't tried them myself, but it's probably going to be quite heavy. You can use them, you can download the model and run them locally in a mobile device, because some of the models are quite small. But it's possible to train them, but I don't know how long that would take. One of the things that in a large language model, and why Google actually, because the word of transformers came from Google. It was called attention before, and they have article about this why attention is important. But they changed the name of attention to transformers later on because they feel like this word transformers describe this function a bit better. Transformers is actually the technology behind GPT and the Gemini. Let's take language as example, right? When we want to translate language, and how does transformers work in this case, right? So it contains two parts: encoder for input and the decoder, which is to learn and to give you outcome. And if we give a sentence to Google, right, to Google Translate to get a new language out of it, this is where transformers comes in place. And we will look at the example here. Say if I want to translate this sentence, right, build AI in front-end projects and to a different language, and we all know, right, all language works different way, and we can't translate this sentence word by word because they have different combination, different tense, different grammar. The process looks like this, right? In a very simple way. I'm sure the algorithm behind this works very complicated. First, we break this down into token. A token means each word here. And we're going to reprocessing this whole sentence. The first step is we're going to translate this into a lower case, easier for the computer to understand. So we remove the capital from this sentence and follow up by actually change the word into its root form. So we're removing like things like a building to build. And we remove, again, a lower information word like the. These are because the language understands this is English first, right? So remove those low information words. And then we change some of the word to a standard form, like dev, FE means front end, right? And then we will start processing this sentence and translate it. So that's a bit very brief and on a high-level view of AI and machine learning. Now we're going to look at this product called Gemma and how we can use it. I'll talk about how can we build it, what is Gemma, how we build it, and how do we actually, if we want to train them, right, make it our own in a specific way. Again, Google actually started working on AI long time ago, probably even before that, but we will see the first product is out in 2015. And through the year, they published different kind of large language model. The large language model came from Google, isn't named Gemini in the first place. It's called a bird. And the first time when they release Gemini, the first version, it's actually they actually the first time when they released the AI model, it's powered by PaLM and the PaLM 2. Now they grouped everything under the family of Vertex AI platform. And this year, they announced the small language model Gemma. And if you are more familiar with the Gemini product, have you used Gemini before? Yeah. So it's from the website, right? It's similar as you can use like ChatGPT, right? You can just say Gemini ask a question. But there are different ways you can use it. So Gemini is a model, right? It comes in different version. It has a light version or the pro version, and it's very powerful. You can give it like 11 hours of audio or 1 hour of video, like maybe a movie, for it to analyze the content of this input. And it works as a multimodal as well. So that means you can give it a video and some text or image, and it works out the connection and the information behind those information you provide. But as a developer, of course, we want to use Gemini in our product, right? Because Gemini.com is already a made front-end project. How do we use Gemini? And we can use Gemini through API. And again, you have different versions you can choose from and see what is the best for your product. Right, but I'm not going to actually talk too much about Gemini, but I want to give you some ideas of those two different products from Google. As you can see here, you can use Gemini either from using the front-end project from Google, which is already made, or you can consume it as API. And Google's product as today is actually embedded with Gemini in many, many places, right? When you do Google search, you probably see the AI content straight away. It's combined with the technology of RAG. It search in a database as usual, but it also transfer this into a very nice smart prompt and then combine the data through its AI model to give you a better answer. Right, and Gemini is in a workspace, is in message as well. So if we have this powerful product of Gemini, what is Gemma? Gemma is inspired by Gemini. The Latin name means precious stone. And it was actually first, this product was announced in London, in a Google office in London, because they do have lots of AI engineers working in the London office. It's an open model. And why open model? This name of open model is actually innovated by Google, because when they first think of Gemma and they want to use a word to describe Gemma, but Gemma is not open source. Because open source, you actually share the code and the data that you use to train the model. But in this case, they didn't share the code or the data. So Gemma is not open source. You don't see actually how Gemma is made. But it's open in a way that you can download it, you can own it, and you can use it for your own project. You can use it in a commercial project as well, or for free. And this is why the design came up with this word of open model, and it's probably used everywhere now to mean that people are free to distribute and modify some model. It runs in laptops, desktop, and in IoT devices as well. How you can use Gemma? Same as many other language model. You can use it for text, as a chatbot. I'm sure everyone's mobile product or web app, right? You will have somewhere a customer support or a chat service. You can use Gemma in the chat service, research, education, and language learning tool, knowledge, and be aware here that Gemma is not multimodal. That's one of the difference between Gemma and Gemini. It has some part of Gemma, different variant that understand a bit of image, but fundamentally, Gemma works only for text-based functions. So the difference between Gemma with many other language model is it's small language model. What does it mean, right? As we know, it's impossible to train a large language model from our own. So if I want to use some service, I will rent it from other companies who has already a model made. But those are quite resource consuming and maybe not environment friendly, right? That's my own view. And I don't need to have a large language model all the time because I want something very specific for my product. This is where Gemma comes in play nicely. It's a small language model. It's trained with less data, and you can train it a lot faster. And the beautiful thing here is you can download it. It's more cost effectiveness. It's cheaper to train compared to a large language model. And you can also fine tune it. You can actually retrain it. But because the size of the model is small, so when you retrain it, it doesn't take a few days. It takes maybe hours, right? Depends on how big the data you put to train it. And it offers you quicker development cycle, and you can own it 100%. So if you work in a large company that has constraints of what data you can use and what data you can share to the public world, this is one option. So if you, for example, building a mobile application and you want to include some of the nice smart search function or recommendations, you can use this model, right? Put in your service and distribute as API service. And you have a smart model already for you to use. A bit comparison, right? In terms of the model, Gemma is lightweight. It's a single model. It doesn't support audio, video, animations, all that. And it's text-based. You can use it for experiment to add on to your application, and then you can download it. And again, it's free to use. Whereas a lot of other products, for example, Gemini, you can use it for free to try, but in your own production environment, you have to. They charge you based on the hit, right? The API access. Okay, now we talked about AI and what is Gemma. How do we use Gemma in our product? I will walk you through of how you can get the API and the token and how we can add this as API in your front-end project. There's a Gemma model on its own, and it's text-based. No worries. Don't worry. I'm louder. And also you have now different variant of Gemma. You can download this variant of Code Gemma, which works really well as a plugin for your IDE, or you have this version language model. This one actually works a bit with image, so it does understand a bit of image. And the new version is the recurrent Gemma. It's text-based again, but you can use it to make some reasoning, some summary, and I'll give you some answering. So as you can see, it's a small language model, but it does come with different variant, and you have choices to choose the one you want. Or you can choose the base model of Gemma and train it to use it in your way. And what's the platform we can use Gemma with, right? There are actually quite a lot. It's probably more than those two now. You can also use Vertex and Google, maybe not Vertex, sorry. You can also use Google AI Studio. Let's see. So Hugging Face and Kaggle, they are quite similar similar platform. Any of you tried Kaggle and Hugging Face? Yeah, Yeah, so you are familiar with it. To give you example of how to use Gemma with Cargo, just go to the Cargo website. Same as Hugging Face, the process is the same. You choose the model you want, and you need to configure the API key and the token yourself. This is from your account, but don't commit that token. Keep it privately. For example, you have your username and your key. And from there, you can download the model, right? The model size is between a gig and 4 gig. But my friend actually told me he tried even smaller version of this model under 1 gig. And he was saying the performance works actually really well. So if you're building a mobile product, right? And you can almost actually, if the size is small enough, you can almost include it in your product and make it like offline feature. I think that will be quite fancy. The setup is quite straightforward because of the time. I'm going to go through this very quickly, but feel free to take images, right? Few steps here. Set up the environment, as we know, right? Let's think about Gemma is API from someone's backend service. We get the environment variables. We install the dependencies and select the backend. And we then load the model, right? Again, very straightforward. And you can see this code example as well from Cargo and from Google website. And once we've done all that, we actually have this model for us to use, and we can import it into our front-end project, assuming you are actually you don't want to download this model as offline service. And to have a function of Gemma from its library, again, super simple, right? We can just say we can call the function send a message, give it a prompt, and you will receive the message as a text format, and then you can start interacting with this model. So again, very straightforward process. And again, what I found recently is like one day I want to ask Gemini a question, and I noticed actually I need to have a certain membership, right? I have to pay the service to actually use some of the functions from Gemini.com. Then I turn into use Google AI Studio. If you go type this product, you will see this layout. And from here, you can actually directly interact with Gemma, with Gemini, all the models you can think of from Google. You can test them because we're all developers. Here, you can actually prompt with the video, audio, and things you want to try, and they're all free. So it's actually quite a nice platform to test things and ideas with, and where you can also train the model as well. To give it a try, you can use the pre-made data set, right? You don't have to collect the data if you don't have them. This is another way, actually, you can use Gemma with. You can pick the language you want to use. And you can also cheat to get the code straight away. All the code I was showing you, if you don't want to use Cargo or Hugging Face, you can use Google AI Studio. And basically, the code to get the model and to consume it, it's already made for you. So this is the power of AI. Right, so I have this model, and in my front-end project, I can start asking questions to it, and it gives me some answers. What if I want to train it in a better way, right? Instead of recommending me a nice shampoo, I want the Gemma to recommend my user a hair shampoo product from my company. So I need to maybe twist the data a little bit to understand my customer, to understand my data, my product. In this case, we need to tune it. Assuming you work for a company where you have your data scientist to provide you those data, right? Say a skincare product, and I want to build this recommendation system for my customer, and I have all the information of my product, and I have information of my customer under GDPR. And I want to build this model to give them recommendation based on their age, their gender, where they live, and how often they want to wash their hair. If I have those data, I'm going to tune Gemma. And again, you can go to Google AI Studio, and you can actually try and taste how this works. That different type of variables you can change here. For example, a bit of some keyword for if you haven't tried this before, you can decide, for example, the token count, how many, what's the text content, the window you want. And one of the keyword you might see from this process is temperature. And what does it mean, right? It's not the temperature of the coffee we drink. You can actually raise it, lower it, decide a number. Temperature here, when you train your model, it describes how creative you want this model to be. If you want, for example, a recommendation, and the answer you get is quite open, or you want to write a nice article, you can change the temperature to be on the creative side instead of being very predictive, to be always correct. So lower temperature is more predictive, whereas high temperature give you a bit very creative output. When you train your model, some of the other technology you might interact or might need to work with, right? I'm not going to read them through again one by one because it's quite a lot of text, and we have 7 minutes left. Feel free to take a picture, and you don't have to actually use all of them. When you train your model, you can leave them as default setting, because there are some recommendations already from the AI Studio website. So unless you want to change them, right, feel free to, but they all come with a default value already, something that Google tests and set as maybe in a very fundamental way, standard way you can use for when you want to train your model. You can decide here whether or not you want to have a better model performance. Then you compromise the time you want to train it. And you can have a small value. Sorry. Think about the initial learning rate and the base learning rate as well. But if you don't want to modify all of them, that's still fine. They come with those default settings. And once we set up everything, we have our data set on the side. You can import your data and you can train it. Right here is where we actually put our customer information and our product information into a data set, load it and train it, right? We choose a pre-trained model, maybe called Gemma or recurrent, and we define those parameters, and we can train the model. So if you want to train the model with a small data set, maybe 100 of columns, the process of training takes maybe 10-15 minutes. It's actually quite fast. So last part of this presentation, how does Gemma change, and how does Gemma would benefit our industry? Few scenarios, right? You can use small language model ways for some very specific code functions, right? Like if I'm using IDE and working as a dev experience engineer, I can write a plugin in my IDE and share with all my colleagues. They will be very happy. And you can make summaries and make wine suggestions if you own a restaurant. And when you give your customer right to order food, and you can use some nice app to recommend which wine they want, right, with the food selection. Again, as for open model, it doesn't have to be just Gemma. There are lots of other smart ideas we can use today. I'm sure you come up with even more. We can use Gemma to modernize our website. As a DevOps engineer, I can use Gemma to help me manage infrastructure, make a prompt for the application to understand more about my logs, my cluster, and investigate of how I can create one cluster as well. So it gives you like the steps, right? The instructions. Again, as data scientist and security, right? I can actually use the model to make my life easier and also to build in this model to my product to make my customer happy. But if everything comes in one side, always have a downside, right? This is not limitation for Gemma only. It's probably everyone's discussing point of language model and AI in our product, right? How do we make sure it's not biased? We have discussed this a bit early, right? Either you use a large language model, someone have made ways, or you want to train it in your own company. And think about feature engineering here and how we can train the data with data set to avoid bias, right? For example, when I want to make recommendation system, do I need to have the customer name? Do I need the gender? Are those information important? Or should I actually not have them to make my model biased or unbiased, right? So think about the feature engineering part in this case. And yeah, again, as I was saying, open model doesn't mean open source. So all the language model are most likely like a black box. So we don't know how it's made, but we can use it, right? And tune it. I probably don't have time to go through this diagram. The traditional life cycle works in a blue, part. Now adding the life cycle of AI into our product. AI is a product of its own, has its own life cycle, but we can actually plug in to our product, being part of it if you want to interact, right, with AI. We also need to test and observe our AI model as well, and then plug in to our product as API service. How does AI impact our project, right? It does have its benefits and its downside. Whereas before, as a front-end engineer, if I want to create a feature, I need to wait or ask my back-end engineer to support me, right, to write me this function. But there's another way, another option now, because I can use a model which is already made, and I can consume it as a back-end service. So it gives you another possibility of how you can create more functions in your product. But we probably, as a downstream business, we probably don't have this power and data to train a model from scratch. So this is why we have to decide either we rent something or we download it, right, with a small language model. Right, I'm right on that. So this is everything I want to discuss today. It's still very high-level view of what Gemma can do, I highly recommend everyone to give it a try. And yeah, we can discuss if you like it, a small language model, or you think it's probably not as powerful as a large language model of other product. Feel free to connect with me. And yeah, thank you.